I can.
I was hoping you'd say that. Let me know when you're ready.
I am all set to go.
Okay, are you guys ready? Sure?
You-
All right. Good evening. It's Tuesday, February 13th of 2024, and this is the Stoughton City Council. And the first item of business is the roll call.
Okay. Peyton,
Here.
Caravello,
Here.
Reeves,
Here.
Hiley,
Here.
Schumacher,
Here.
Hirsch,
Here.
Excuse me, Wozniak Scanlon.
Present.
Thank you. And Butler.
Here.
Okay, so we have 8 alders present. Jensen, Sherlucky, Mayaski, and Lagaki are absent and excused.
All right, thank you. Are there any communications from alders? I have one quick one. At the last meeting, we had a couple of guests in here that talked about the Spread Goodness Day. In your packet, you'll see the proclamation, and that'll be on March 8th. And it's the day to spread kindness in the community. And one of the things we're able to do to help with the celebration is at the senior center, the McCloskeys are going to be playing there from starting at 11 o'clock in the morning. So if you're not doing anything on that Friday, they're always a good time, expecting the crowd. If you really want to have fun, you can show up at 10 and do coffee with the mayor. I'll be there as well. So that's happening on March 8th. And I anticipate that there'll be some businesses and hopefully the school district that will participate again this year, second year of that. Any communications from alders? Otherwise, I put together what has become kind of an annual update for the council, and I'll go through that as quickly as I can. Feel free to stop me along the way if you have any questions or need some clarifications. And hopefully those that are online can see my screen right now. And basically, this is an update from 2023. And what I do is I gather information from Dane County, as well as our planning department and our school district, and pretty much anywhere where I can find information that I think is relevant. Doesn't mean you will, but I do. And just try to give you some updated information so you can understand kind of what's happening in Dane County and then what's happened here locally. So this first slide here is the county population growth. And you can see that from 1970 to 2000, we grew by 136,000 residents. And then they did a projection that said from 2000 to 2030, we would grow by 153,000 residents. Well, I'm here to tell you tonight we've already approached that, and we're 6 years away. So at that current rate, we're going to be about 38,000 people over what they projected in Dane County by 2030 at the present rate. So I have a couple charts in here that kind of demonstrate our growth. And typically in the years like 2010 and 2020, when we do the census, that's when everything gets corrected, and we've seen big bumps in them years. Otherwise, we're growing about 1.1% or maybe 1.5% on an annual basis. But I kind of went through and all the way back to 1840 when there's 314 people in Dane County. And this is kind of a graphic of what it looks like over the years. And then one of the things I wanted to point out is when the chart on the left, on the orange, you can kind of see those are single family home building permits in Dane County per 1,000 population. And you can see that when it's above the Mendoza line there, we had some pretty good growth in the early years, and then it kind of leveled off in the early 2000s and bottomed out during the Great Recession. but you can see that we haven't really gone up above that Mendoza line since then. And the blue represents the medium house prices, so we can see that as the inventory has not kept up with the demand, that the prices increased. And that's basically what both of these charts are showing here. And the same thing with the apartment vacancy, where the vacancy is low, then the rental for the tenants have gone up. And we've seen that even here in Stoughton, where with the shortage of apartments, we've had landlords that have been able to bring in new tenants at a higher rent and then displace those when their leases have run out and they've had to find other properties and move. So it's a real problem in Dane County and especially in Stoughton. This one here talks about the area medium income, and that's kind of what HUD uses to help with their definition of affordable housing. And you can see that, you know, our percentage is good compared to the county, but still 25% is more than we want as far as the affordability for people. There's, you know, 25% of our population is a good number of people here in Stoughton, so we'd like to be able to provide more affordable housing options. The next one talks about development here in Stoughton, and it's kind of similar to Dane County, although in the last few years we can see that we've had a pretty good run on housing units. The big spike was in 2018, and that was when the apartments were built over in Nordic Ridge. And then we also had a spike in 2022 when the first Lakestone property out on 51 West was developed. And then the other charts kind of show, the graphics kind of show the duplexes, the multi-unit, and then the minus the demolitions in the single family. But you can see, and I'll show you on some future slides here, that our number of single family homes has gone up pretty good the last few years. On this chart here, it goes all the way back to 2000. And if you get back to 2023, this year you'll see we had 51 building permits pulled for single family homes. That's the highest we've ever had going all the way back to 2000. And then we also had 18 duplexes, which is, I believe, the highest number of duplexes we've ever had as well. We didn't have a lot of multi-unit last year. If we would have, we probably would have had an overall record year of units. We anticipate the second building on 51 West to be built starting in the spring, and then potentially some more over in Kettle Park West that you had recently approved. And then, you know, you never know what else might pop up in these developments. There's room on the west side of 51 West for some multi-unit as well. So we're definitely starting, you know, to see some growth here in Stoughton, and these charts kind of illustrate that. Now keep in mind when I show these, some of the charts show when the building permits were pulled. It may or may not be necessarily in the year that they're completed or people are moved into them yet. And the same thing when I'm kind of going through some of the school enrollment figures. Sometimes they carry over for 1 year to another, but at least it gives you a flavor of what's going on. But you can see in 2022 and 2023, we've consistently had more homes built than we had in the previous several years. And if you go all the way back to the recession, you know, there were years where we had, you know, maybe one building permit in 2009, one single family home, and that was it for the year. So you can see the effects that the recession had on the housing market. Stoughton population, this one here goes back to all the way to 1850. Some of you have seen this one before. When we were founded, we had 70 people in Stoughton. Our current estimates show us at 13,178. It gets calibrated during the census, so in 2020 that number is accurate. Everything else is projected, and it fluctuates here and there. And even though we've had some growth, our population hasn't grown that much because the size of the families haven't increased. They've actually gotten to be smaller household residents, and we still do have an aging population as well. This one here is a chart that, I think these are national averages that show that based on the type of home, single-family, duplexes, multi-unit, typically how many people live in the houses and then how many are school-age children. So when you're factoring enrollment for the school district, these are the types of tools that the consultants generally use for that. And this is just another chart that helps to break that down. So what I do is I take those formulas, I put them into a spreadsheet, and then I go off of what we have for permits or what I know is actually built in a year once it's passed, and then project out in future years based on what developers are telling me or what we might have in our developers agreement. And I throw that all on a spreadsheet, and it kind of populates where we can anticipate our population growing and potentially the number of students we're going to get. So in 2022, it projected we would gain 10 students, and fairly accurate. And as we go ahead, by 2030, I'm projecting 300 to 400 more students. Obviously, these are subject to change because of the timing on when some of these may get built. A lot of times they get pushed back, but at least it gives you an idea of the potential that's out there. And then there's a section in the middle here that is in yellow. Those are potential projects that really haven't pulled any permits, or the starting dates are undetermined at this point, but there's some potential for future development in the pipeline. This slide here I received from the school district, and this one only goes back to 2013. But you can see back then they had over 3,200 students, and now they're sitting at about 2,800. So since in the last 10 years, they lost about 400 students. But you can see the good news is if you go back the last 3 years, it's kind of leveled off, and I think they actually gained 11 students this year. So that's actually encouraging that we've been able to at least, the trend has been flattened, and we're hoping that it'll increase because the school districts and enrollment helps determine some of the state aid that they get, and I'll talk about that a little bit. For us, the importance of construction is our net new construction. So at budget time, we talk about this. Dave gives us the number. So we have a chart here that shows in 2013, they put in some state laws, and basically we can only raise our property tax levy based on that net new construction, because the theory is even though you're raising the taxes, you have a wider tax base to spread it out, so it won't affect the current tax base as much than it would be by just simply raising taxes. So you can see in the last few years here, really since about 2016 and 2017, we had pretty good years. And then 2022 and 2023 are the two best years that we had in net new construction since this chart has been developed. And we expect that this year will be pretty good as well. It might even be higher than 2022 with all the development. And this includes single-family homes and commercial properties, minus the demolitions. And I think there might have been something in the state budget. They were talking about maybe eliminating the demolition because that goes against your property values or your equalized property value. So, but you can see that, we built $31 million worth of buildings last year. For the school district, this is kind of a quick summary. The school district's planning on being here in March to give an update and a presentation and to help inform us of the referendum. But some of the slides that they may or may not show talk about their September membership. That's their enrollment. And you can see they did go up 11 students from last year to this year. And it talks about the equalized valuation. So the property values went up 13%, which is fairly consistent with what we saw from our assessors. And then they also get revenue per student, and in the governor's budget, that number went up per student. But that number hasn't really gone up consistently and stayed up with the cost of living increases that the school district have to absorb. And that's one of the reasons that, kind of drives them to a referendum. This one here, the reason I put this one in here is just to kind of illustrate, if you go back to 2016, that first column talks about general state aid. The state aid used to be 36% of the revenue for the school district's budget. And you can see at one point it went all the way down to 28%. And then this year with the state of Wisconsin approved budget, it bumped it back up over 31%. And you can also see, their tax levy has gone down. It was 51% and it's 45%. That's the mill rate has dropped. And you can see the other state sources have actually had to go up, and the federal sources have gone up especially, and even some of the other to really make up the difference. But you can see that the public schools have been receiving less support in state aid from the state. At one point, the state had a commitment to provide 2/3 funding for all school districts throughout the state. That really never occurred. And, and actually went the reverse. It got worse. And these are some of the challenges that the public schools have faced. And this kind of illustrates where from 2013, how it's been consistently going down. It bottomed out in 19 and 20. And then it has gone up in the last few years as they've been able to work an agreement between the governor and the state legislator on the budget. And then I just threw some slides in here in case people ask you questions. Hey, what's going on in Stoughton? So here's an aerial slide you've probably seen before of the 51 West development. Also shows the field where the STI development is set to occur, and there's a map in there of that. And then I included a picture of the headquarters. And then there's also a map of 51 West that kind of illustrates what's going on out there. And on the east side there, you could see originally we were going to do 3 apartments. That is, 2 of them were combined. So the first building is completed. And then the second building, as I mentioned earlier, they're hoping to do in the spring. If the interest rates hold up, they plan on doing that second building. So they're filling up fairly quickly. And then on the west side, some of these areas here in orange that were duplexes or fourplexes, these fourplexes we actually replatted to put condos there, and there's going to be, instead of 16 units, there's going to be a total of 20. And if you drive out there, you'll see at least 4 of them are nearly completed. They're the ones who have the steps in the front if you're driving down this road here. And those are currently for sale. And then in the back here, they've started some of the duplexes. And then on the lower part in yellow, I know they started at least 2 of the single-family homes. So this map here just kind of shows where the fourplexes on the right were turned into condos, and where the duplexes on the left and on Rutland Dunn Town Line Road are currently being built. This map here is Kettle Park West, as you probably recognize. And so far, Lennar has been the national home builder that has developed, I believe, about 28 lots currently. We had a meeting with Forward Development Group today. They think that they potentially have a buyer for all the alley lots. And if that deal goes through, they'll be presenting some updates to the Plan Commission and potentially the City Council of what their plans are. And they believe they have a commitment from Lennar to build out the rest of the regular light yellow single-family lots here. And they're also having some conversations about doing that road extension to Highway 138 and the timing of that. So we had a really good conversation with them. There's some other buildings that are going up around there. So we have the apartments that were approved behind the hotel. That has been delayed, but they believe that that project will still happen this year. So I'll give you an update when I hear more about that. There's also a lot on Jackson Street, just past the entrance to Walmart that Anytime Fitness purchased. They're planning on putting up a building that would also have a shared use restaurant in that building as well. Popeyes is open. The car wash is still working on a closing date to build a car wash over by Dunkin' Donuts. And then we still have the vacant lot across the street by the substation. And just so you guys know, we're having conversations with Dane County and the fire department and utilities about putting the outdoor tornado siren, emergency management siren out there. It's come to our attention that we don't have good coverage in this area or in Nordic Ridge. And when we had the storms the other night, you probably saw some chatter where people couldn't hear the sirens. Keep in mind the sirens are only meant really to be useful if you're outdoors, to tell you to go indoors, but it's always comforting to be able to hear them from inside your home. So we are in the process, and we did get some money in the budget to install a siren, and we're looking somewhere out in this site here where there's, I think there's like an easement there for a phone company box or something there, a little shed. And Josh and Jill are working with Dane County on the location and getting the materials ordered to install that. Basically, we have to put up a pole and mount it to it and run some electrical, but the substation's right there, so it's not too far of a run. So I wanted to let you know that's going on, but the Stoughton Utilities controls this land. They've shown some interest in selling it, so that might be something that we might talk about at some point in the future. Stonecrest, this is went through the Urban Service Area Amendment with the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission. I ran into Matson's today. They haven't really come up with a start date for their project yet, but more than likely this triangle piece that shows up on the right would be where they would start, and it really extends some of the current development that they completed in the past. Magnolia Springs, they've already done some of the piping underground work there. They're trying to get contractors out to do more right now because of the nice weather. And this one is really set to go here in the spring. And they're going to start kind of in this northwest corner in this first phase, but they're already talking about maybe moving ahead on the second phase because they've already pre-sold some lots before they're even, foundations are even put in. So there's definitely interest. These will be priced in the 300 plus range. The light yellow ones are the single family and the orange ones are the duplexes. So that's about 118 units. So that could be a, an entry level type home. Some of them may not have basements to try to keep the cost down. They may or may not have 2-car garages. They may only have 1-car garages. They're trying to get a mixture of homes to get people that might not necessarily be able to afford a home to get in them. And what we're hearing from them, Eldon Homes, LNR, is they have finance packages available to help get people in homes at a lower interest rate than they might normally get from the bank. So they're being really creative right now to try to get people into ownership and build some financial equity. RDA is still working with Kurt Brink. If you've been down Main Street in the old co-op building, you probably see there's a TV showing videos. There's some marketing materials in the windows, and they'll be getting periodic updates at the RDA on how many people are going to the website and filling out a survey. They're trying to build up a database of potential buyers for these condominiums. After the Great Recession, there was change in federal laws that really restricted the availability of just getting a construction loan and building condos. It's a little bit more stringent where you have to pre-sell a certain amount and then they'll get you a construction loan, which is a cumbersome process, but they believe there's a market for it, so we'll find out whether or not that happens. 211 Water Street, we've been talking about that one periodically, talked about a little bit tonight. So this would be a downtown multifamily conversion. We have other property owners downtown that we've been talking about that would like to take advantage of a new downtown TIF to help fill the financial gap to make these projects happen. So we'll be talking about that. This is one of the school district buildings that was approved through the Plan Commission. This is the former Yahara site, and you can see that the old gym is still there, and then the new structure here would be for their maintenance building as part of their building referendum. So I don't know if they'll touch on that next month, but they're in the process of putting together their timelines and getting their permits to do this project as well as the project over at River Bluff. Emmy Roth is, of course, completed. They purchased the additional lots around them as well. And then they plan on doing an expansion of their parking lot here in the spring. So temporarily, we're allowing them to park on Glacier Moraine Road Monday through Friday. They've been hiring and bringing in work at a faster pace than they anticipated, which is a good problem to have. So we've been able to accommodate their parking challenges until they get the new parking lot constructed. And then these are the additional lots that they purchased. The blue one is the current lot where their building is. And then if you can see the red line that goes around it, those are the other lots that they purchased. And then there's a few lots to the east that are still owned by the Elys that are more, in our comprehensive plan, are more toward residential than commercial or industrial areas. And this shows some other properties across from Glacier Moraine. Or no, I'm sorry, these are the Clongland properties on 138. So these are not too far from where Magnolia Springs is going to be. Magnolia Springs is kind of down here in the bottom right. And then there's some other properties that could be developed on the other side of Highway 138, kind of south of Nordic Ridge and west of Magnolia Springs. This building here, the former Pizza Hut site, is just about completed. I think T-Mobile might even be open now. Cousins is close. Noodles is still coming. I'm not sure exactly when. I was told spring. We'll see what happens with them. And then Stoughton Health, they're putting an addition onto their building to accommodate the future growth in Stoughton, which is a really exciting project for them and will help them expand their services to not only Stoughton, but really Dane and Rock County as a whole. Well, that's all I had. I know it was a lot, but this information, this will be in your packet. So if you get residents asking you questions, you can direct them to here, or you can send them the document, and hopefully you find this information helpful. Are there any questions? All right. We'll get on to our regular agenda here. And the first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. So there's a number of items in there. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Who was it? Motion by Schumacher and a second by Reeves. Would anybody like anything on the consent agenda acted on separately? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None opposed? That motion carries. New business, R113 of 2023. And this one is coming from, it went through Park and Rec, but it was at planning last night. So we'll go with Alderperson Caravello.
Yes, thank you. This is the R13 2024 resolution by the Common Council of the City of Stoughton to discontinue part of Ridge Street located in the City of Stoughton, Dane County, Wisconsin, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Peyton. Alderperson Caravello, can you remember back to last night?
Sure, I think I can remember from last night. This is to discontinue, there was an easement. I guess I'm not even sure if necessarily it was an easement. A lot of people might not be familiar with the fact that Ridge Street continued through a piece of property at the bottom of Ridge Street instead of taking a sharp right turn. And the owners of that property would like to discontinue that right-of-way, I guess I would call it, of the of Ridge Street, and basically exchange, I guess, the option for us to use a sliver of their property that goes adjacent to Cooper's Causeway, as opposed to Ridge Street, so for a sidewalk trail. So we could actually utilize the area and make that area safer down there for folks that are hiking, biking, dog walking, whatever, going through that area. It's a little, not the safest area at this point. And also along with that, there is a piece in here that addresses fiscal impact, because that is for the improvement to Cooper's Causeway, to put in that pedestrian component and make it safer. And also included in this is the piece of property that is east of the Cooper's Causeway Road, which is wetland. So we would also be getting that in exchange. This, basically in this deal. Does that about cover it?
Pretty well covers it. Anything you want to add, Attorney?
Yeah, no, Matt can fill in if need be, because he already took the laboring oar on it. So basically this resolution is conditioned on certain things happening first. So if you approve it tonight, the trail isn't discontinued automatically. What needs to happen is the property owner needs to actually do all these other conveyances before the resolution actually takes effect. And I believe Director Hebert is online if he wants to talk about the trail aspect of it, but the fiscal impact of roughly $91,000, I believe, is based on the difference in cost of building a trail through the current location versus building a trail along Cooper's Causeway and the land that the landowner would give back to the city as a condition.
Yeah, that's correct. So the difference, the $91,000 change, is the difference between building the trail in the current right of way and constructing the trail on the west side of Cooper's Causeway in the land that would be conveyed to the city. And what we'd have to do is fill in that area. It is some wetland areas now. I believe there's also a condition in there that the developer has to receive the permit from the DNR on our behalf. So that would be one of the contingencies in the deal. And then we would construct the trail when we are ready. And so we would put that in the CIP. And of course, working with the Park and Rec Committee, we would decide when to kind of put that trail in the CIP along with the road work. So I'll be part of the package to come later.
All right, we have a question from Alderperson Reeves.
Yeah, I did have a question about what that trail might look like, because I'm just wondering about filling in wetlands. That never sounds like a good idea, so I'm just wondering to what extent. Is there a boardwalk being considered, or, yeah, so maybe you could talk about the wetlands.
Yep, good question. We say wetlands. Basically right now it's just a drainage ditch. So we'd be adding storm sewer and replacing that ditch. So when we say wetland, it's really not like a natural wetland. It's really more of a drainage ditch that we'd be filling in and putting storm sewer in its place. Urbanizing that section.
Thank you. Yeah, I do. I mean, I walk along that area, and it, oh, thank you. and it's tough to walk around there, with the cars zipping around. So I'm definitely in favor of the idea. So thanks for that clarification.
Any other questions or comments? So you touched a little bit on the process. Where would we go from here?
So if this is adopted tonight, then a lot of it really falls on the property owner or the developer to move things forward. Basically, they are going to have to work on all the conveyance documents, and the title insurance has to be acceptable to the city. They have to get the actual the permit to do the trail project. So really, we can inform the developer that the city's approved it, but then it's really on the developer to move things forward in conjunction with the city. But sort of going to be them taking the lead on the land conveyances.
Okay, thank you. Anything you want to add, Matt? I know you worked on this as well.
Yeah, I would just add that the property owner that made this request, I think needs this to happen in order to accomplish the sale of their property to someone who wants to operate a business at this location. And so that's another benefit for both the property owner and the city of making this, ultimately getting this done, is getting that accomplished. And this is definitely the single most complicated discontinuance of right-of-way I've ever seen. There is going to be work to be done to get to the finish line on this, and as Rick said, the property owner really has the burden of getting all of that accomplished. We'll be reviewing their work as they go, but yeah, it's a complicated one.
I think there's also an understanding of some property across the street that is wetlands that the city would acquire as part of this.
Yeah, one of the conditions here they have to satisfy is conveying a piece of land, a parcel of land, across Cooper's Causeway from where this new trail would be. It goes all the way to the river, I think. And one of the benefits, I think, of that conveyance is that, at least the hope is that we would be able to extend a trail that already is located in the area but doesn't go all the way through yet. This is one of the pieces that's needed to get a trail through. Probably the mayor or Brett can give you more information about the details on that, but you do need to get the trail through this piece eventually.
Yeah, so right now there's a trail that extends behind the hospital, the Amundsen Trail. So this would just help get one more segment towards that connection. We still need to have willing participants that are in the middle, but that does get us one step closer to that end goal. And these aren't all wetlands. I think there is a strip of land to the south that is buildable for a trail at least. So it's not all wetland. There is also opportunities within the wetland to do some sort of boardwalk through the river, of course, with DNR approval. So there is some opportunity there as well.
All right, any questions or comments on this one? Did you have a question, Alder Lagaki?
No, I'm getting prepared to vote, and thank you.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell because sometimes you raise your hand and I can't see you tonight, so hopefully you're feeling well. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? That motion carries. All right, we'll go to the next item. We're going to move item 13 up. So I'm going to cue that one up. This was also one that was at the Planning Commission. Oh, no, it didn't go anywhere. This one was at Park and Rec originally, and then we had a request to extend some dates on this property. So, Alderperson in Caravella, can you introduce this one? Because you probably know more about it. This is the Emily Barr property. you could just, so basically what we're looking to do is extend the occupancy date until from February 19th to March 3rd. So she'd like a couple more weeks to be able to stay there and move out as the weather warms up.
The other thing too, if I may, we worked with this property owner, and she had quite a lengthy illness during this problem, during this period of time, and so she asked for an extension. We don't have any plans right now to do anything with the property at this time, so we're comfortable if you are to extend this to March 3rd.
And based on our conversations with the city attorneys, we just felt the most efficient way to grant the extension is to do it on the current addendum O. We don't really want to get into a lease situation because it creates all other legality issues that we don't really feel are necessary. Am I phrasing that properly?
Right, so this was, when the city acquired this land, we gave her 60 days to vacate the premises as sort of like a post-closing occupancy. So this is just extending it for a couple weeks. She still has to maintain insurance on the property. She's indemnifying the village for what it's worth. But she's, still in the process of getting things out. So it's just a one-time, roughly 2-week extension.
Okay. Now, if you're comfortable just making a motion to approve the addendum O as presented, that would probably suffice.
Yep, I move that we approve addendum O as it is written, as we see before us.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Wozniak Scanlon. Anything else, Brett, from your end?
No, she's been really, she's been communicating really well with us. It's not going to put us out anything, so I think it's a good faith effort to work with, this property owner to make this happen.
Okay. Questions or comments from alders? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed. Thanks for being here tonight, Brett.
Yep, no problem.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right, yeah.
All right, we'll get back to item number 8, which is R14 of 2024. And this is the other discontinuance that was at the Plan Commission last night. Alderperson Caravello.
This is R14 of 2024, resolution by the Common Council of the City of Stoughton to discontinue Chalet Court located in the City of Stoughton, Dane County, Wisconsin, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Butler. Alderperson Caravello.
And this is just to discontinue what was going to have been Chalet Court, which would have been a cul-de-sac off of Chalet Drive, and basically, instead of developing a bunch of parcels that would have been on Chalet Court, this will just make it so that there will be a couple of parcels on Chalet Drive that will be developed, and the area that is going to be discontinued will basically be conveyed to the city as park, more or less, with an easement through it.
All right, thank you. Attorney Matthew.
Yes, so this one is a little bit more straightforward than the other one. Basically, that's sort of the preliminary draft of a CSM that you can see on the screen. It's not a formal proposal at this time, but that's what the developer is thinking, at least at the moment. Just to reconfigure those parcels, and to make this feasible, they have to discontinue Chalet Court. The one condition is they have to have a CSM that's acceptable to the city that gets approved, just to deal with the basically the outlot that's going to be conveyed to the city, and then there's the an access easement from that outlot. It's going to be a public access and stormwater easement that goes in between lot 1 and 2. That's the plan at the moment, but there will be an easement, an access easement. It may be there, maybe someplace else, but that is the general concept, I guess, at the moment.
Any questions or comments on this one? And I know this one was talked about at Park and Rec as well, so any committee members that want to chime in on this one, feel welcome to. But as they said, it's fairly straightforward. There would be an easement going in, and there's also an easement to the west that kind of starts out in front of Keegan's school and goes all the way through the backside of this park area. It actually comes out in the Quick Trip parking lot. So if you drive by Quick Trip, you'll actually see where there's cars parked there that is actually on city property. So they'll have a couple different access points. I think the neighbors are kind of pleased with the plans here. The developer would put 3 duplexes here. There's one that's seems to be, I think, is completed, and then where it says 1 and 2, those would be the 2 additional duplexes that would go there. And then where the bulb is, that's the area that Phil mentioned that would, basically become additional parkland. So there's a low-lying area in there. Seems to be quite a few, some wildlife and things like that. So I think that this will be a nice way to complete this as an infill project, which those projects are typically challenging to get done. So I'm looking forward to that. If there's no questions, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. Next item is R15 of 2024, and that is coming from the landmarks, I believe.
No, that's mine.
Finance.
Yep.
But it's a landmarks item.
Yep.
Both of the next two are Alderperson Schumacher. Go ahead.
This is R15 of 2024. This is a resolution amending the 2023 adopted budget for the closure of the Landmarks Commission Fund. I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
I thought you would do that. Alderperson Reeves. Alderperson Schumacher, go ahead.
As a result of the GASB 54 statement, funds like these are they're not allowed. So over the last couple of years, we've been kind of closing some of these types of funds off, giving them, they're put into the general ledger instead. So they're kind of given a department number. I think that's what you call it, Dave, department number instead. And then we just see it accounted within the general fund instead.
All right. Anything you want to add, Director Ellinger?
No, I think Director Schumacher covered everything well.
All right. Any questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. Next one is also from Finance, Alderperson Schumacher.
This is Resolution 16 of 2024, a resolution to amend the 2024 adopted budget for the closure of the Landmarks Commission Fund. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Reeves. Alderperson Schumacher.
All the same reasons as the previous resolution. This is just for the 2024 budget.
All right. Any questions or comments on this one?
And this will just be corrected in future budget years. This way, we don't have to continue to amend or.
Correct. With the adoption of these two, the budget moves from Fund 235 to General Fund within the Common Council budget area, and then going forward it will be. Now, of course, you can reverse it if you want to, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Oh, heck no.
Any other questions or comments?
And then we also get in Finance Committee, we get specific reports based on these committees and commissions funds. in there, so, I mean, we do keep track of them.
Excellent. All right, no further questions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. All right, the next two items are first readings. And they're coming from public safety, and I can either have Alderperson Lagaki can introduce them, otherwise Alderperson Reeves is prepared to do that.
Sure, Tim, if you want to bring it up on the screen, that would be great.
Sure, and these are both going to be first readings.
They are. This is ordinance number 2, 2024, repeal section 70-195, the 30-minute parking limit for the downtown parking area, and I introduce for its first reading.
All right, thank you. And I can just kind of cover this briefly as we've been talking about the downtown developments. We started going through our parking ordinances, and we discovered on this one there was actually, I think, 3 stalls that were designated as 30-minute parking, and 2 of them are not in existence. I went to the location and looked, and there was no sign, and there's no reason to have 30-minute parking there. The third one is in existence, and that's the 30-minute parking in front of the co-op. So the idea would be is if we repeal the ordinance, then that 30-minute spot would become a 2-hour spot like the rest of them there on Main Street, which I think would be better utilized for people that want to park down there and patronize the businesses and not fear getting a ticket after a half an hour. So we just thought this would be an opportunity to clean that up. Does anybody have any questions about this one? If something pops up, let me know. Otherwise, this one will be back at the next meeting. And then I'll put up the next one for you, Alderperson Lagaki. Here you go.
This one's not as straightforward as the last one. This is ordinance number 3 of 2024 to amend the section 70-180, no parking from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. in the downtown area. And I think we have good, clear language in the area that we are now speaking of in this ordinance for this first reading.
Yeah, this one here, what we're trying to do is for the downtown parking, we've been working on the 211 South Water Street project. And one of the things that we're talking about at public safety is they would like to enter into an agreement with the city at some point to potentially lease out some parking spaces in the municipal parking lot. Obviously, that would be an ordinance that you would all be looking at in the future. And if that ordinance was approved, we would still have to draft the terms of the lease arrangement. And as part of the discussion, what we noticed is in all of our downtown, we have parking 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Most of it's 2 hours. But we also have no overnight parking from 3 to 5 a.m. in the morning. And so we talked amongst us with utilities, public works, planning, and PD. And, you know, I think the rationale we believe at the time is we really wanted to leave the roads available so people just didn't park on the roads overnight, especially in the wintertime. Although we believe that with our alternate side parking, if we called a snow emergency, that would cover this. And the only other time, you know, we do work downtown is typically early in the morning. Some days we do street sweeping or brush pickup. Garbage pickup is on Fridays. And we're trying to create more parking spaces on the street so those that are currently parked in the municipal lot could actually park closer to where their apartments are. Or if they're down in an establishment late at night, they don't have to make a decision on driving in their vehicle when they may be impaired or just leaving it parked overnight and getting a ticket. So we started with this Water Street one because it's close to the development that we're looking at doing, and we wanted to do a pilot and see how it goes before we get too carried away. Originally, I was thinking we just do all of the downtown, and Public Works was like, you might want to pull back on the reins a little bit. So we did, and we came to an agreement to try this first, see how it works out. If it doesn't work out, we'll just switch it back. If it works out, we might consider doing some of the other side streets. Probably would not want to do Main Street. It's just gets to be too much, for maintenance, especially on snow days if people don't adhere to the ordinance on the side streets. Yeah, it would be inconvenient maybe for a day or two, but eventually we'd probably get it plowed or whatever needs to be done. On Main Street, it would be a little bit more disruption, especially for the businesses if their car was plowed in and we can't get it moved and somebody's trying to conduct business out of their retail shop. So the idea here is to start with this one and just eliminate the 3 to 5 parking only on only on the 200 and 300 blocks of South Water Street, which basically go from Main Street back toward the corner where Cully's used to be, which is now Ben's there, across from the municipal parking lot. Any questions or thoughts on this one? I mean, ultimately, what we're trying to do is encourage more residential development in our downtown and the underutilized buildings. We had some public hearing last night to talk about creating a new TIF district downtown so we can better utilize, especially some of the upper units in the buildings where there's financial gaps in developing those properties. And we know that if we encourage more downtown residential living, it'll be affordable. It'll be walkable to get their goods and services. For some, they may work downtown. And I think it overall will make a healthier downtown, but we know with that will come some parking challenges. So we're trying to look at creatively at looking at options without, building parking ramps if possible. So this is one way that we hope will help alleviate some of the congestion in the municipal lot. That all makes sense? Okay, too much information? Was that a yes? Yeah. All right, so this one will be back for a second reading at the next meeting. And once again, if you have any thoughts, feel free to reach out to me. That was 12, right? So item number 13 we already did. So that takes us to item number 14, which is Ordinance 4 of 2024, a general development plan for 1005 Stoughton Avenue. And let me pull that up. So some of you might be familiar with this. This was at the Planning Commission last night. Alderperson Caravello, do you want to introduce it?
Sure. This is Ordinance 4 of 2024, Plan Development, General Development Plan for 1005 Stoughton Avenue, Stoughton, Wisconsin. Is this a first reading? This is a first reading.
Yeah, it should be a first reading. Yeah, it's on the next page. Yep.
And this is Habitat for Humanity would like to develop this into a duplex or a multifamily property. This is on the site where at this address a couple of years ago, this structure that was there burned down, and utilizing the square footage of this space, this was it was a good plan, I think, what they've come up with for utilizing the space. I think it should work really well there.
All right, thank you. And our interim Director of Planning and Development, Tim Senman, is on here. Anything you want to add, Tim?
Good evening. Not really, other than to say there are a couple more things, items needed, approvals needed for this before construction can begin. So there's a second reading, of course, on this GDP at the next council meeting, but following that, a specific implementation plan will be needed. That'll come before the Plan Commission, as well as a certified survey map. What Habitat wants to do is build a twin home structure, so that certified survey map would divide each of those units into its own ownership lot. So those two items are forthcoming.
And we did have a public hearing last night, and really there was no member from the public that attended and spoke on this one. The original property, I think, was a 2-flat, so this would be a side-by-side, which is basically the model that they utilize, 0 lot line. Any questions or comments on this one? Alderperson Reeves?
Is a twin home different than a duplex then? Are they spaced apart? I didn't notice that. Or is it?
I can take that if you want. Yeah, so a twin home looks like a duplex. However, each unit is contained within its own lot. So the structure from the street may look like a duplex, but the form of ownership is different.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this one? Okay, so this will be back at the next meeting. And that takes us to item number 15. And that would be a discussion and status and negotiations with STI Holdings, request for tax incremental financing and related to undertake development relating to the proposed developments north of the Highway 51 development, which is the same language you've seen at multiple meetings now. And I think what we wanted to do tonight is give us City Council an update or where we're at in the process of the developers agreement. And I think we have an opportunity to go into closed session. I'm going to look at Matt for guidance here. Attorney Dregney. Push the button there.
I think the discussion that I anticipate this evening is one that will need to be, well, that should probably occur in closed session. We're going to be discussing the negotiation process that has unfolded since your last meeting, where that stands, my assessment of it, and determine whether you have any direction you'd like to give to us or any messages you'd like us to provide or convey to the other party to the negotiation. So that's what we're going to be doing.
Are there any initial questions? If not, did somebody want to read the language to go into the closed session?
Mayor, before we run into a closed session,
Sure.
can we have a restroom break?
We can do that. Do you want to read the language so you can get it done faster?
I will do so. Common Council may convene in closed session per state statute 19.85, paren 1, paren E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business wherever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Common Council may reconvene in an open session to discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in the closed session. And I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Payton. This one needs a roll call vote, Candy, when you're ready.
Okay, Wozniak, Scanlon,
Present.
Legaki,
Aye.
Butler,
Aye.
Schumacher,
Aye.
Payton,
Yep.
Caravello,
Aye.
Reeves,
Aye.
Hiley,
Aye.
Hirsch.
Aye.
That's 9 others in favor.
All right, we'll prepare to go into closed session. We're going to take a quick break while we're getting the room ready for that. And let's see, looking to see what was online here. Looks like everybody that's on there, I think, is Chris, is that our new